In this video, I'm going to rate how every projected starting NFL quarterback has to prove entering the 2023 season on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being nothing at all, and 10 being everything. Just so there's no confusion, I'm going to go in alphabetical order in terms of team. Arizona, Atlanta, Baltimore, etc. You get the idea. You guys are all incredibly smart. That's why you're watching my videos and subscribe to my channel. Let's go! Arizona Cardinals, Colt McCoy. Now that Kyler Murray is going to be out for most of, if not all of the season to play video games, 37-year-old career backup journeyman Colt McCoy is in his place. And nobody really gives a crap about the legacy about Colt McCoy except for Colt McCoy and his family. Everybody expects him to play like crap, and everybody expects the Cardinals to be terrible. So really, what does Colt McCoy have to prove? I don't know. That he can win maybe 4 or 5 games as opposed to 2 or 3? The stakes aren't exactly high in this situation. Therefore, I say his prove-it rating is a 1.5 out of 10. Atlanta Falcons, Desmond Ridder. This is an interesting one because Ridder is either going to be the future of the franchise or he's just going to be a temporary, recent high draft pick that did not pan out in the post-Matt Ryan era for Atlanta. Based on what happened during his rookie season, it was a mixed bag at best, but still Ridder has only thrown 115 passes in his career, so it's too quick to say whether he's an absolute scrub or going to be a stud. But this isn't a video about the quality of quarterbacks, it's what they have to prove. And in terms of proving he belongs in the NFL, Ridder still has a gigantic task ahead of him. Therefore, I say his prove-it rating is a 10 out of 10. Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson. Lamar is in an interesting stage of his career. He is in what should be the smack dab absolute peak prime of his career at just 26 years old. Thus far, his peak was obviously when he won MVP back in 2019 at just 22. So he's got his MVP, he's made multiple Pro Bowls, he has an incredible regular season winning percentage, he has a long-term contract. He's proven he can play, at least in the regular season. The only thing he has left to prove is that he can do well in the playoffs, which he has not done yet thus far in his career. And as we all know, playoff performance, whether it's fair or not, is a massive part of every quarterback's legacy. So therefore, I say Lamar's prove-it rating is at an 8 out of 10. Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen. Allen is a certified top 3 quarterback in the league right now, behind Patrick Mahomes and really up for debate with Cincinnati's Joe Burrow. He's obviously a dominant regular season quarterback, both individually and in terms of winning, and he has shown that he can have dominant performances in the postseason as well, most notably in 2021. The only thing preventing Josh Allen from being at Mahomes' level are championships. Despite Allen's ascension as the years have gone on, the Bills in recent years have actually gotten farther away from hoisting the Lombardi. 3 years ago, they lost in the conference championship game. 2 years ago, they lost that classic divisional round game versus the Chiefs, and last year they got blown out at home in the divisional round versus the Bengals. Until Allen wins, or better yet, even makes a Super Bowl, I will say that his prove-it rating is about 5.5 out of 10. Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young. It seems obvious that every rookie quarterback is given a 10 out of 10 prove-it rating because they literally have never proven shit on an NFL field at this point in time. However, as we all know, every rookie starting quarterback has different expectations and margins for error. In Bryce Young's case, I believe that he could have a very bad rookie season, and considering that he is so tiny that you could fit him into your pocket when he starts misbehaving, I do not believe he will have a successful NFL career, but because he was the first overall pick, he has a lot more margin for error than other top picks. So his prove-it rating is a 10 out of 10 by default, but it's a soft 10 out of 10, much like my ex-wife. Chicago Bears, Justin Fields. The book on Fields at this point, from unbiased glasses, sorry Bears fans, is that he's an incredible athlete, has an incredible arm, phenomenal runner, zero pocket presence, slow processor, and a very, very inconsistent passer, which when you play quarterback is a very, very big deal. He's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the league in each of his first 2 seasons, and the excuse has been a lack of help, etc. I don't think Fields is good, and I am strongly recommending to Bears fans everywhere to sell your Fields stock. In my opinion, he has not proven to this point that he is an NFL caliber quarterback, and he will not prove it again this year. So therefore, my prove-it rating for Justin Fields is a 9.5 out of 10. Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow. One of the 3 best quarterbacks in the league right now, along with Mahomes and Allen, Burrow has made a Super Bowl and a conference championship game in back-to-back years. The only thing that he doesn't have at this point is a Super Bowl championship, as well as an MVP in the regular season. But he has quickly turned the Cincinnati franchise around, so his regular season prowess cannot be questioned, as the results are undeniable. Even though I do think he is a little bit overrated as a playoff performer, he's tied with Mahomes for the most playoff wins over the last 2 seasons. The only things left left for Burrow to check off his list are MVP and Super Bowl MVP. Therefore, I say his prove it rating is at a very, very healthy 2.5 out of 10. Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Cosby. This is a football-related video, so in terms of proving himself off the court, we are well beyond redemption there. In terms of proving himself on the field, Deshaun Watson, he's never won anything, and he was absolutely terrible last season once he returned from his suspension. The one positive trade-off that the Browns expected for getting this massive piece of dog shit is great play on the field. And at this point in time, we are not sure if Deshaun Watson is still capable of great play on the field like he was with the Texans. And again, he never came close to winning anything with the Texans. So when you really look at it, Deshaun Watson has a ton to prove on the field. Enough so that I would say his prove it rating is a 9 out of 10. The Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott. Another year, same Cowboys. They haven't made a conference championship game since 1995, so the pressure on the starting quarterback to get this extremely annoying and extremely overrated sports franchise back into the Final Four is always there. Dak had a tremendous opportunity last season to end the Cowboys conference championship drought, but he pooped all over himself in San Francisco. I think Dak has proven for the most part to be a pretty good regular season quarterback, but in terms of the postseason, he hasn't done anything. Just like his predecessor, Tony Romo. Until the Cowboys make it to a conference championship game or a Super Bowl, or better yet, win another Super Bowl, Dak Prescott will always have a very high prove it rating. To me, I say he's about an 8.5 out of 10. Denver Broncos, Russell Wilson. Wilson is a unique case because he's already going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback someday, and he has a Super Bowl championship on his resume. But after changing teams with an ugly divorce from Seattle, he had the worst season of his career by far in Denver. So really, it's on Wilson to prove that he can get back to that elite status he was in Seattle for so many years, which is a different kind of prove it as opposed to rookies or draft bust or mid-starters, aka guys who have yet to show that they can actually play in the NFL, which is something Russell Wilson has done. I would say his prove it rating is a 5 out of 10. Detroit Lions, Jared Goff. Another pretty tough decision here because Goff's career has been just one massive roller coaster, and we're coming off of a season where it was one of the peaks, as Detroit was fun, exciting, and Goff put up pretty good stats. But as with Goff, it seems anytime there is some momentum, he eventually goes into a pit and stinks and gets replaced. Goff has shown that he can be a respectable NFL starter, and at times even a very good one, but he's never shown that he can be a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, even though he made one. It sounds weird because it feels like he's been in the league forever, but Goff is still just 28 years old, so he could very easily be the Lions quarterback of the future, or just another flameout that they replace in the draft after he falls back down to earth. We don't know. I would say Goff's prove it rating is a 7.5 out of 10. Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love. By far one of the most interesting storylines entering the season to me is whether or not Jordan Love will pan out. And although this is his first year as a starter, and most first-year starters get a little bit of leeway, it's also Love's fourth season in the NFL. So the margin for error and the amount of slack he gets is going to deservedly be a little bit less than most first-year starters. I mean, it's pretty simple. The guy is following two back-to-back first ballot Hall of Fame Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. Considering the Packers took him in the first round with one of their old future Hall of Fame quarterbacks still on the roster, if Love doesn't at least turn out to be a Pro Bowl quarterback, he will go down as one of the worst draft picks in sports history. So yeah, his prove it rating, 15 out of 10. It also doesn't help that Jordan Love literally translates to Skip Bayless. Houston Texans, CJ Stroud. There are a couple very, very serious warning signs about CJ Stroud. The first is that he is an Ohio State quarterback, and Ohio State has literally never produced a good NFL quarterback. Never. And no, Joe Burrow doesn't count. On top of the fact that Stroud is a rookie who had troubles under pressure in college, I'd say, yeah, he has a lot to prove. Prove it rating, 10 out of 10. Indianapolis Colts, Anthony Richardson. Richardson is the only quarterback on this list who I can actually say still needs to prove that they're a good college quarterback. But because he is such a physical freak and a physical anomaly, he was able to get drafted high in the first round despite never even being good in college. He can say thanks to Josh Allen for this. Honestly, I have serious doubts about it, and his prove it rating is obviously going to be a 10 out of 10. You know what? I'm gonna bump it up. It's actually an 11 out of 10. Shout out to Spinal Tap. Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence. After a historically bad rookie season under famous integrity haver Urban Meyer, things were not looking good early in Trevor Lawrence's sophomore season. The once can't-miss prospect was missing badly. quickly. He and Doug Peterson got shit going and eventually turned the season around to the point the Jaguars made the playoffs and even won a playoff game. Now Lawrence has to prove that he can play this well over a full season, but he's still so young that there's plenty of time for him to win a Super Bowl, although with Jaguars, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. He has a lot to prove, but his future looks a lot less dim than it did 1 year ago. Prove it rating, 8.5 out of 10. Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, two-time Super Bowl winner, two-time Super Bowl MVP, two-time MVP, not even 28 years old yet, already a first ballot Hall of Famer, five-time Pro Bowler. If he stays healthy, he's going to break every single mark in the book. The only thing that he is still chasing is the ghost of Brady and whether or not he can finish his career with as many or more championships. That's why I say his prove-it rating is a minuscule 0.1 out of 10. Las Vegas Raiders, Jimmy Garoppolo. Good Lord, he's still so handsome. Oh my God. Anyway, this is a football video. Get control of yourself, Barry. Okay, I think I'm ready. All Jimmy has done as a starting quarterback in the NFL is put up really good stats and win a lot of games. Unfortunately, he can't stay healthy, and he had his chance to win a Super Bowl a couple years back and didn't come through in the fourth quarter. I regrettably think that's the closest he will ever come to winning a championship as a starter. And I think everybody basically knows that he's a middle-tier quarterback, but not much more. Therefore, I would say his prove-it rating is a 6.9 out of 10. Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Herbert. We are at a pivotal point of Herbert's career. He's now entering his fourth season. He is beloved by the eye test watchers and the highlight reel merchants for his unbelievable highlight plays. But he's also criticized by others for not winning anything and not having made the playoffs until last season. And then even in his first and only playoff game, ended up blowing a 27-point lead. There's no questioning his talent. There's no questioning whether he can play. But he still hasn't won a single playoff game. And if he's going to continue to be hyped as one of the top quarterbacks in the league, playoff success is probably the biggest part of that. And Herbert does not have that yet. Prove it rating, 8 out of 10. Los Angeles Rams, Matthew Stafford. Stafford, one of the weirdest careers in NFL history. Drafted first overall in 2009 with high hopes to a historically terrible franchise. Lasted 12 seasons there, winning absolutely nothing and branding himself as one of the biggest losers, literally, of any quarterback in NFL history. He goes to the Rams and in his first year wins the Super Bowl. So what does Stafford have left to prove? Nothing really. Nobody considers him an all-time great player, but he's got a Super Bowl ring and he's got a lot of counting stats. So I guess with a couple more solid seasons, he could strengthen his Hall of Fame case, maybe make a couple more Pro Bowls, but his best years are probably behind him. Therefore, I would say his prove-it rating is at a 4.5 out of 10. Miami Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa. There are several facets here. Tua first needs to prove that he can stay healthy, as his repeated concussions have jeopardized his career. The second proof is whether or not he can show that his 2022 season wasn't a fluke and just a product of Mike McDaniel's scheme. When healthy last year, Tua was actually pretty good, although he was in a very good situation with McDaniel's scheme and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle forming an incredible duo. Between all the health concerns and the fluke concerns, I would say Tua's prove-it rating is a 8 out of 10. Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins. Oh, good old Kirk. He's probably the best quarterback in the league that his team's fans actively hate. He's in the final year of his mega contract, and a lot of Vikings fans can't wait for him to leave. Despite the fact that every year he puts up great numbers, he's never won anything. Even after last year when the Vikings won an unbelievably amount of close games, they predictably flamed out in the first round of the playoffs. Cousins doesn't have to prove that he can play in the NFL, but he's never come close to winning anything important. But he's in his mid-30s now, and he's unlikely to change, so I can't say the expectations are exceptionally high for him. I would say due to his lack of playoff success, his prove-it rating remains pretty high at a 7.5 out of 10. New England Patriots, Mac Jones. As Mac Jones' rookie season was progressing a couple years ago, it looked like the Patriots had found their quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years. But ever since that famous Monday night game where Belichick had Jones throw the ball just 3 times, he hasn't been the same player. And then you compare last year when he was calling plays from Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, he gets a little bit of a pass from that. But this guy came out of Alabama as the most pro-ready prospect who had already basically reached his ceiling. So if this is the final product of Jones and he keeps getting worse and worse, then basically New England is shit out of luck. Is Bill O'Brien the answer to help him? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But Jones has a lot to prove. His prove-it rating, for me, 9 out of 10. New Orleans Saints, Derek Carr. Derek Carr is one of the greatest losers in NFL history, and that's not a diss, that's an actual fact. The Saints decided to take a flyer on him to see if he could finally make himself into an elite quarterback. Hint, he's not going to. Carr has always been a massive tease. He's never won a playoff game. He's appeared in just one playoff game in his first 9 seasons. He got a couple MVP votes wrongly in 2016, and it looked like he was going to become a superstar, but he's never come close to that level since. Basically, he has proven that he is a good enough quarterback to break your heart at the worst moments. Therefore, his prove it rating is a 8 out of 10. New Jersey Giants, Daniel Jones. Danny Diapers had his best season last year with the Giants, I suppose, which isn't a very high bar to clear. The Giants made the playoffs for the first time in 7 years, and Jones did have a great performance against Minnesota in the wildcard round before predictably crapping his pants against the Eagles. So at this point, Jones still hasn't shown he's a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback, but has shown he can win a playoff game in the right situations. The massive contract the Giants gave Jones, however, is one of a star quarterback, therefore increasing his expectations significantly. So even though I don't expect a lot out of Daniel Jones at this point, his prove it rating is still very high. I'm going to say it's a 9 out of 10. New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers. Again, as I said earlier, there are different types of prove-its for quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's one of the 4 or 5 best quarterbacks of all time. He's a 4-time MVP and a Super Bowl champion and a Super Bowl MVP, even if that Super Bowl happened about 5 decades ago. So yeah, Rodgers has proven that he can play in this league at a high level. He still has to prove, though, whether or not he can regain his MVP caliber play of 2020 and 2021 after a very, very bad season last year, his last with Green Bay. He's going to turn 40 in December, so clock is ticking on him. Can he still play at an MVP level and lead the Jets to the Super Bowl? Who knows? But because it's the Jets, I doubt it. My prove it rating for Rodgers, 3.5 out of 10. Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts. Hurts has already quieted a lot of doubters in his short career, going from a backup to a solid but inconsistent starter to one of the best quarterbacks in the league last year, who put up one of the best performances of any quarterback in Super Bowl history, but unfortunately his defense shit the bed for him. Several things do remain for Hurts to accomplish: that elusive Super Bowl, a Super Bowl MVP, an MVP, and really proving that his 2022 season wasn't a fluke. As an Eagles fan, I feel pretty confident that Hurts is the real deal, but now that he has gotten a massive contract, the real pressure is on, and a part of me is dreadfully thinking that he missed his best chance at winning a Super Bowl last year, thanks to Carl Cheffers. Overall, I would say Hurts' prove it rating is a 5 out of 10. Pittsburgh Steelers, Kenny Pickett. Pickett had a lot of expectations to live up to last year as a first-round pick, following up decorated women respecter and hero Ben Roethlisberger. Pickett's disturbingly small hands didn't have great numbers, but just from watching him play, I thought he made a lot of nice plays at key moments. As it stands right now, Pickett still has to prove that he can be a good NFL quarterback like most young quarterbacks. And then if he's able to prove that he's a good NFL quarterback, the history of the Steelers and the expectations of winning Super Bowls come into play. So there is a lot for young Kenny Kitten Mittens to prove. Prove it rating, 9.5 out of 10. San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy. The issues with Purdy are this. 49ers on their roster currently have a former 3rd overall pick that they traded a shitload for in Trey Lance, who's easily the most physically gifted quarterback on the roster. They also have Sam Darnold, who is still pretty young, even though he's been in the league for like 10 years. And then you got Brock Purdy, who came out of nowhere last year, put up great numbers, helped the 49ers get to the NFC Championship game before blowing out his arm, which effectively ended the 49ers season. Entering year 2, there's a lot Purdy to prove. Is he a fluke? Is he for real? If he continues to perform well and win games, will he get credit, or will Kyle Shanahan, much like with Jimmy Garoppolo? Will he ever be able to get the 49ers, who are still loaded, back to the conference championship game, or even further into the Super Bowl? For me, I'd say Purdy's prove it rating is a 9 out of 10. Seattle Seahawks, Geno Smith. Geno's career was dead in the water entering last season before he had one of the greatest comeback stories in the history of sports. That doesn't mean he still has nothing left to prove, though. Geno must prove that last season wasn't just a fluke and a flash in the pan, and it also wouldn't hurt if he was able to win a playoff game or show that he could perform well in the postseason. All of this seems crazy to expect when just 12 months ago Smith was considered one of the biggest draft busts in NFL history with no future at all. The fact that he even has expectations like this again speaks to his hard work and how much better he's gotten since he was last a full-time starter. I'm rooting for him, but he still has a lot to prove. Therefore, I give his prove it rating an 8.5 out of 10. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield. Bryce Young fans, don't look at Baker Mayfield's career. Now that Tom Dilfer has officially retired, the Buccaneers are back to being irrelevant with shitty quarterback play. At this point, Baker's reputation is in the dump. He was once considered considered a future star and a former first overall pick, but that's just not how his career is going to go. Is it fair to say that he has a lot to prove when nobody expects him to do anything? I don't know. Much like with Colt McCoy, I feel like everybody knows he sucks and he's just a temporary starter with no expectations. So therefore, I would say his prove it rating is pretty low. Not because he's good and has accomplished a lot, but because he's already proven that he sucks. Therefore, I'd say his prove it rating is about a 3.5 out of 10. Tennessee Titans, Ryan Tannehill. Once again, we are going through the Ryan Tannehill experiment. For a moment there in 2019 and 2020, it looked as though Tannehill was actually going to become an elite quarterback before he regressed back to his previous standard. Basically, this Ryan Tannehill is good enough to win you a lot of games in the regular season, and he has done next to nothing in the postseason. And he's had his chances. He's just not a guy you can trust, which is exactly why the Titans have tried to find his replacement in each of the last two drafts, in Malik Willis and now Will Levis. When you prove you're a respectable quarterback that hasn't won in the postseason, that's about as split down the middle as you can get. I say his prove it rating, 5 out of 10. Washington Commanders, Sam Howell. All I can say about the second-year quarterback out of UNC is that he looks like what you would get if you asked a drunk person to draw Baker Mayfield. And unfortunately, because he's a Washington quarterback, I doubt he's ever going to win anything, and he's not exactly a physical freak either. But at the same time, he's still a little bit of an unknown, which kind of tickles my fancy. I believe his prove it rating is a solid 10 out of 10.